The anime begins with Sato, who has just awakened in another world. There, he is found by a girl who thinks he is a drop from the enemy she just killed. Since the drops in this dungeon are food, she believes he is human-shaped meat and intends to shred him. But when Sato hears this, he abruptly stands up and screams, startling the girl. She wonders why a person came out of a slime drop. Sato asks her if she's crazy because he still doesn't know where he is or what's happening. She then confronts a slime to show him what she means. Initially, she gets hit, but then easily defeats it with a single blow from her hammer. Upon dying, the slime drops soybean sprouts. She explains they are in the first underground floor of a dungeon called Tellulu, and slimes in this area always drop soybean sprouts. She considers it common sense, but obviously not for Sato. Sato asks if they are in Japan or on planet Earth, but she doesn't even know these words. After watching her kill slimes for a while, Sato asks why she doesn't face something else. She replies that on the first floor of this dungeon, there are only slimes, and she's still too weak to go down to the next floor. However, she might be able to do it if she levels up. Sato asks if levels exist in this world, and she takes him to see a device called the Now board. When she places her hand on the device, her attributes are displayed. She is level 3, her maximum level is 40, and her strongest attribute is her health points. To Sato, this seems very similar to a video game, but there's also a second page with drop attributes. The higher the rank, the more material is obtained from killing enemies. Her best drop rate is in plants, which is why she collects soybean sprouts in Tellulu. Sato is curious about his attributes, so he places his hand on the Now board and is disappointed to see that all his attributes are at the lowest rank. Since his maximum level is 1, he has no possibility of leveling up or improving his attributes. Flipping to the next page, the girl tells him that his drop attributes are also very sad, as he's below F in the alphabet. But Sato remembers that in his world S is better than A, so he decides to give it a try. He looks around for a weapon but finds nothing. The girl lends him her hammer, but it's so heavy that it almost breaks his arm. She apologizes and gives him a more suitable weapon for his strength, a sharpened bamboo cane. Now armed with the cane, he can face the slimes, and after missing a few blows, he finally manages to pierce the slime with the lance. As expected, upon dying, it drops soybean sprouts, but the amount is very high. She says she has been in Tellula for 2 years and has never seen anyone get that amount. Taking advantage of the amount obtained, she prepares food for both of them. After the first bite, Sato begins to cry. She gets scared, thinking the food tastes bad, but Sato talks to her about his previous life. He doesn't remember the last time he ate delicious food with another person. All his meals were cold dishes from the supermarket and energy drinks. His lifestyle led him to end up in the hospital, and upon leaving, he wanted to make up for lost time. This led him to work excessively until he fell asleep and woke up inside a slime. He mentions that he never received any reward for any of his efforts. She hugs him to comfort him and tells him that every effort has its reward, whether it comes late or early. Whoever makes an effort will always have a reward in the end. After crying for an indefinite amount of time, Sato thanks her and tells her he's going to look for a place to stay. She tells him there's an inn just outside the dungeon, and she plans to sleep in the dungeon since she doesn't have money to pay for accommodation. They say goodbye and exchange names. She's called Emily Brown, and Sato's full name is Ryota Sato. Once in the village, Sato begins to see how the local economy works. The currency is called pilo. He was able to sell the sprouts for 200 pilos. The inn costs 2,000 pilos per night, and a bowl of ramen costs 500 pilos. Now that he knows the prices of everything he wants, he returns to Tellula to kill slimes again. In 3 days, he manages to obtain enough to rent an apartment for 20,000 pilos per month for a whole month. Still, Sato doesn't seem very enthusiastic. The apartment is old and in poor condition, but Emily finds it surprising nonetheless. Sato gives Emily the keys and tells her that this is her home now and that she shouldn't worry because he will pay the rent. He says this is what he owes her for the soup. I understand that Sato appreciates Emily's gesture, but paying her rent is disproportionate. Even more exaggerated is not living inside the house he's paying for. Fortunately, Emily tells him she will prepare soup for him and will make it every day. Sato asks her if she's inviting him to live with her. This is a pleasant surprise for him, although I don't understand why he reacts like this if he's paying for the house, anyway. Later, Sato goes to sell the soybean sprouts as usual, and the cashier tells him about a new dungeon called Nihonium that recently appeared. This dungeon is being investigated by the Neptune family to find out what the drop is. Sato doesn't know who the Neptune family is. The cashier finds it strange that Sato doesn't know them and explains that they are the most powerful organization in all of Sekiro. He apologizes for holding up the line and says it's better to leave, but since this is an average quality isekai and there can't be a woman who doesn't fall in love with the protagonist, she invites him to have a drink for no apparent reason. By the way, Sato rejects her, telling her he can't today. It's already night, and Sato returns home without knowing what to say since he hasn't had someone waiting for him at home for a long time. Fortunately, Emily gives him a warm welcome. Besides, the apartment is unrecognizable. She left it like new. That's not all, she also prepared a warm towel and tea. He asks her if she knows anything about the Nihonium dungeon. Emily says that according to rumors, there's no drop in the dungeon, and it's totally useless. Sato decides to go investigate. The place is empty, confirming that there are no drops. Suddenly, a skeleton attacks him, breaking a pillar behind Sato. He tries to defend himself with his bamboo lance, but it's useless. Luckily, this time, the rock pillar behind the skeleton falls, allowing him to finish it off. To his surprise, despite the rumors, there's a drop, a seed that disappears when he tries to grab it. At that moment, a voice is heard saying that Sato's health points increased by 1 point. Upon returning to a now board, he confirms that indeed his health points have risen and are now at rank C, even though he remains at level 1. Sato and Emily begin to investigate and manage to discover several things. Skeletons don't drop seeds if Emily defeats them. If Sato defeats them, she still can't pick up the seeds. And only Sato hears the voice saying that his health points increased. A few days later, while eating, Sato mentions that after fighting hard in Nihonium and collecting seeds, his health points finally reached rank S, and he's ready to go to the second floor of Tellulu. Emily tells him to be careful because she doesn't want him to overwork. Sato remembers his past life and appreciates having someone who cares for him, promising to always return before nightfall. On the second floor of Tellulu, a slime hits Sato, but since his health points are rank S, it doesn't hurt him at all. Upon killing it, it drops a carrot, which is the drop for slimes on the second floor of Tellulu. Suddenly, a rabbit girl appears behind him. She tells him she hates low-level people and hits him on the head, surprised that her blow doesn't hurt him. Later, before eating, the girl appears at Sato and Emily's door and hits him on the head again, saying she hates low-level people. But then her expression changes, and she tells him she loves him, although apparently she's saying it to the carrot Emily is holding. With this, Chapter 1 concludes. Chapter 2 begins with Emily asking Sato who that girl is. Let's hope this doesn't result in marital problems. The rabbit girl hits Sato on the head, but she's intrigued that her attack had no effect. She then grabs a poor random guy and destroys him with a single blow, saying she did the same to Sato but it didn't affect him, and wonders how that's possible if he's only level 1. Sato responds that he doesn't know but internally thinks it's obviously because of his rank as health points. Still, they don't understand what she's doing in their house, so she shows him a carrot that fell to him on the second floor of Tellulu. She had never seen such large and perfect carrots, and comes to ask for more. Sato isn't convinced to let her in, but Emily invites her to eat. The next scene is Emily cooking, but you're on an anime channel, not a cooking channel, so next. In the next scene, the three of them are eating, and the rabbit girl treats Emily like a goddess for her cooking skills. She leaves, saying she'll come back another day, while Emily and Sato talk about how they used to eat alone and both appreciate each other's company. The next day, on the second underground floor of Nihonium, the dungeon that only serves Sato because of his rank S drop rate, Sato is talking to himself, saying he needs to be stronger to protect his happy new life. Suddenly, a zombie appears. Sato reacts quickly, piercing the zombie with his lance, but it seems to be a stronger enemy than the previous ones, and the lance breaks. Still, the zombie isn't strong enough to harm Sato. The problem is that fighting a zombie made of rotten flesh is quite disgusting. After some hits, Sato manages to defeat the zombie. The skeletons on the first floor of Nihonium gave health points, and Sato wonders what he'll get on the second floor. Upon picking up the seed dropped by the zombie, the same voice as before is heard, but this time it says his strength increased by 1 point. The rabbit girl sees him and approaches to hit him, asking what that drop was. Sato prefers not to tell her anything, worried about what response to give her. But she just tells him there are no carrots where they are and they should go to the second floor of Tellulu. Sato tells her he'll go in a while and asks her to wait for him at the market. She accepts happily, and Sato continues to gather strength points, but this is not shown in the anime. In the next scene, Sato is carrying carrots. He internally notes that now that his strength has increased from F to D, it's much easier for him to kill the slimes, and thanks to that, he obtained more carrots. As he approaches the rabbit girl, everyone murmurs that he's crazy and she's going to kill him. Urza approaches him, concerned, asking if they are friends. Sato tells her he rather considers her a pet. This surprises everyone present. Then Urza says that from now on, she'll buy the carrots at double the price and explains that the rabbit girl is actually a dangerous adventurer named Eve, capable of even splitting a rock with her Excalibur strike. They say that if you don't give her a carrot, or if you give her one but it's of poor quality, she'll knock you out with a single blow. That's why she wants to buy carrots from Sato. If it's known that they are to Eve's liking, adventurers will buy them to avoid being attacked by her if they encounter her. Additionally, only Sato can get those carrots thanks to his rank S drop rate. Thanks to the situation, Sato managed to sell the carrots for 15,000 pilos, which amounts to 450,000 pilos per month. Despite having just eaten, Eve continues to insist on more carrots. So, she tries to hit him again, But this time Sato stops her, telling her he promised Emily he'd arrive before dark. This surprises the adventurers again. Days later, while Sato and Emily obtain carrots on the second floor of Telulu, Sato encounters some adventurers unable to kill a slime. But a very strange old man kills it and tells them they must continue. They want to rest and have been without sleep for 2 days, but the old man tells them they are naive and does this for their own good. If they give up, they'll remain weak. To Sato, this reminds him of one of his bosses who gave them impossible tasks under the pretext that it was for their own good. The protagonists decide to eat and rest for a while. Eve arrives to eat Emily's food, who had prepared a carrot pudding for her. Later, the old man from before sees them and tells his disciples never to be as lazy, as the drops from the lazy are the worst. Eve approaches the tired adventurers and tells them they must eat carrots, tossing them directly into their mouths. The old man tries to stop Eve but quickly realizes he's not at her level and prefers to retreat. The adventurers thank Eve and leave. After selling everything they obtained at the market, Sato tells Urza that they actually got a lot more quantity, but couldn't bring everything because there were too many. Urza recommends they buy a magic cart to increase their production. Upon arriving at the store where they sell carts, the man selling them recommends a specific one, but the only problem is that it costs 10 million pilos, while Sato's income is only 450,000 per month. A normal cart costs only 2 or 3 million, but they don't have monster detection systems like the more expensive one. They aren't convinced by any of the options, so the man offers them a prototype that is not yet available for public sale, with even more useful functions. Sato and Emily head back home, discussing how they need the cart if they want to increase their production, but they don't have the money. Then Sato tells her they must start saving. Suddenly, they hear people screaming. They are running and shouting to others that a stray has appeared. Sato asks what a stray is, and Emily tells him they are monsters that appear when a drop is left abandoned in dungeons. Maybe it's one of the carrots they couldn't take with them. Everyone runs, even the adventurers. Emily also adds that strays don't drop anything, so no one takes the risk of facing them because there's no reward anyway. Everyone manages to escape, but Urza falls, and the stray is about to strike her. Luckily, she is saved by Sato. Additionally, Eve and other adventurers come to help, but even attacking, they can't land a solid blow. So Sato asks them to try to keep it in place. The gorilla throws a giant rock to stop Sato, but Emily breaks the rock with a hammer blow. Eve and the others manage to immobilize the gorilla, allowing Sato to advance enough to headbutt it, followed by a powerful blow to the body, strong enough to defeat it. The townspeople thank him, and Sato is happy because in his previous life, he never could do anything for anyone. While investigating the area where the gorilla died, Sato spots a drop, even though strays were not supposed to have drops. This is the same as in Nihonium. Apparently, only those with an S-rank drop rate can obtain something in these situations, and the only one who meets this requirement is Sato. Chapter 3 begins by revealing the drop, a pistol and bullets. Sato says that a firearm shouldn't exist in the world they are in. In the next scene, Sato heads to try his new weapon against a zombie on the second floor of Nihonium, and it's expected that such a rare drop works extremely well. The only problem is that the bullets are limited, and he has no idea how to get more. But as long as he has bullets, he can quickly obtain seeds. Later, Sato and Emily go to eat on the second floor of Telulu. He tells her that now his strength is in the B range, and with his current statistics, it's safe to go down to the next floor. Emily has never been here before. Nevertheless, she knows that the enemies in this area are cockroaches, and their drop is pumpkins. However, the presence of cockroaches is not pleasant for Sato, much less for Emily. She seems like a completely different person. Fortunately, this is useful for killing as many cockroaches as possible and getting a lot of pumpkins. After all this, they go to the village to sell the pumpkins, but there's a problem. Some of the pumpkins they left on the ground for themselves were partially devoured. Emily suspects they must have been cockroaches, so she smashes the pumpkins with a hammer. Unfortunately, her suspicions were correct, and she goes completely crazy. Sato tries to kill the cockroaches to calm Emily down, but he runs out of bullets, leaving him no choice but to kill them with his hands, even though it's disgusting, all while yelling at the cockroaches to give Emily back. After finishing with all the insects, Sato realizes they dropped bullets. Later, when they go to sell the pumpkins, Urza explains that if you leave a drop where there are no people, monsters will appear around it, just like the gorilla did before. Sato realizes this is something he can take advantage of, forcing the appearance of strays by leaving the drops alone, then killing them and getting bullets. As he thinks about this, Urza invites him to dinner at a local place, but he just thanks her and leaves, immediately leaving a carrot on the ground and waiting for monsters to appear. Out of context, I feel like this scene is a bit funny, a guy behind a tree looking at a carrot, waiting for something to happen. Suddenly, it seems like a stray is about to appear, but it's Eve. She doesn't plan on giving back the carrot, and Sato had to make 9 more attempts. Finally, on the 10th try, a slime appears, which Sato shoots immediately. Its drop is a bunch of bullets, so by doing this, he can obtain infinite ammunition. Again, supposedly, strays don't have drops, and this only works for Sato or for someone else apart from him with an S-rank drop rate. Chapter 4 begins with Sato attempting the same strategy with the monsters from Nihonium, curious about the type of drop he could obtain. However, there's an issue. Although his health points cannot increase further as they're already at the maximum, the seeds still vanish as soon as he grabs them, and he's unable to transport them out of the dungeon to generate strays. He tries kicking a skeleton out of the dungeon, but to no avail. Later, Urza explains that monsters vanish if they leave the dungeon. Seizing the moment, she remarks on the charming contrast between Sato's considerable adventuring talent and his lack of knowledge about many basic things known to most adventurers. Sato once again ignores her, thanking her as usual. She insults him as he departs. It seems an idea has struck him. The plan now is to quickly get the monster out of the dungeon and shoot it just before it disappears. According to Sato, if he kills it outside the dungeon, it should count as a stray. Suddenly, he hears the same voice as when his health or strength points increase, but this voice tells him he obtained freezing bullets. Sato decides to try them immediately, and the result is impressive, managing to freeze an entire large tree. With this, Sato has new ideas and tries to freeze a slime so that Emily can hit it. According to him, it's a frequent combination in video games and works in this world too. Still, Sato clarifies to Emily that those bullets are very difficult to obtain, so they should only use them in case of emergency. On their way back, they encounter two people arguing. In summary, it's a merchant whose cargo fell, ordering an adventurer to retrieve it. However, she refuses because besides being very difficult, the drops in the cargo could turn into strays, which is dangerous. According to the woman with violet hair, the cargo carries drops from strong monsters, and the strays would be very dangerous. So, it's best to burn it with magic as soon as possible. But the merchant says that inside there's a perfume that costs a fortune, and he invested a lot of money hiring adventurers to gather all that cargo. The old man tries to hit her but only ends up hitting the rocks. It seems the merchant has some power, but he's actually possessed by a monster called Femini, which has no body of its own and needs to possess others. Sato manages to free the merchant from possession with just a few bullets, and the woman with violet hair plans to sacrifice herself to gain time for Sato and Emily to go quickly to the city to gather an army. She also says that being the hired escort, this accident is her responsibility. This reminds Sato of a moment from his past life, where a coworker makes a mistake and to fix it, he'll have to work even without sleeping to fix that mistake on time. Sato offers to help, but his coworker doesn't accept it. This time, he won't allow the same thing to happen and loads his gun with freezing bullets to shoot at the cargo, freezing all the monsters there so Emily can destroy them all with a single hammer blow. The woman with violet hair thanks them, as she was saved from what could have been a big problem. Since Emily was the one who killed all those frozen monsters, her level increased a lot. Now she's level 20, and her strongest attribute is strength, which reached rank A. And here ends Chapter 3. Chapter 4 begins with Sato and Emily exploring the 4th floor of Telulu. The monsters in the area are bats, but a different monster appears among them. Emily identifies it as a rare monster. It tries to escape, but Sato freezes it and finishes it off with a shot. Its drop is a completely different item from the usual vegetable drops they're used to seeing. Sato decides to give it to Emily, and she blushes, telling him she'll cherish it. Everything seems very nice, but Sato informs her that she'll also multiply her earnings now. She asks what he means, and he explains that the usual voice told him it's a necklace that doubles drops. Now, Emily feels embarrassed and tells him he should have said so earlier. However, upon trying out the double drops from the necklace, she can't help but rejoice. By the way, those things are bamboo shoots. Later, as usual, Sato goes to sell what they obtained. A green-haired woman asks if she can try one of those bamboo shoots. Sato says it's fine as long as it's just one. She cuts it into several pieces and upon trying it, she says even when raw, it's very delicious. So delicious that she starts crying and desperately asks Sato if she can buy them. He hesitates because Urza is present, but she sees no problem with it. The green-haired woman gives him 20,000 pilos for the shoots and leaves. Urza tells Sato that the woman is someone very important, a gastronome named Eric Meshi, and all foods approved by her are highly valued among gourmets. Urza sees this as an opportunity and asks Sato if he'd like to sign an exclusivity contract, where he can only sell bamboo shoots to Urza, and she will resell them as a branded product. Sato thinks it's a good idea and accepts the deal. The next day, Sato returns to the 2nd floor of Nihonium, aiming to reach rank S in strength. There he encounters a blonde girl accompanied by her servants killing monsters. One of them approaches Sato, telling him not to interfere because the princess is working. He explains that they discovered that Nihonium does have drops. The monsters drop air, and since the princess collects it herself, it sells for a high price. Upon returning home, Sato asks Emily if they should buy a magic cart or move out of the house. She responds that the cart is a better option, as if they use it to earn more money, they'll soon save up for a new house. She also says she's happy living in that small house. The next day, they go to buy a cart, But when they arrive, they find Olga, the daughter of the old man who manufactures the carts, crying. They ask her what's wrong, and she says her father went to pick flowers but hasn't come back home yet. Emily informs Sato that the only place with flower drops is a dungeon called Arsenic, so they immediately head there. The monsters there are rocks that neither move nor attack but block the path. Sato shoots them, but the bullets bounce off. His weapon isn't powerful enough, but Emily defeats them easily with her hammer. The drop from these monsters is flowers, but the anime doesn't mention what type of flower it is. All of this occurred on the first underground floor. To reach Olga's father, they had to descend 9 more floors to reach the 10th floor. The old man is fine, he's just asleep. However, neither Sato nor Emily understand why he's sleeping in such a place. Emily is bothered that he's sleeping while his daughter is worried, so she wakes him up with the sound of a loud hammer blow on the ground, and he apologizes. When Emily asks him how he dares to leave his daughter alone, and the poor man responds that he was looking for heavy and light rocks for his new magic cart prototype, but he only got the heavy ones. The reason is that the light rocks are rare monsters and also weigh less than air, so they float, and he can't reach them. To reach the stone, Emily climbs on top of Sato. Her hammer is too heavy, but Sato says his strength is now rank S. By doing this, she manages to reach the height to hit the stone. The drop is a blue flower, just what they needed. Sato asks how he plans to use a flower on a cart, but the man tells him the flower is just to create a stray, but they must catch it quickly because the stone is lighter than air and they are outside. The old man fails to catch the stone, but Sato shoots it with a freezing bullet. They shouldn't kill the stone to obtain another drop, what they need is the stone itself. With this, Orton's most modern magic cart is finished, and he tells Sato and Emily they can take it. They don't want to accept such an expensive gift, but Orton tells them that not only could he make the magic cart thanks to them, but they also defended the city, and this is the reward they deserve. Now with the cart in their possession, they can collect many more drops than before. While Emily prepares dinner, Sato goes to sell the drops. However, there's a man causing a scene because he claims he brought enough to sell to get 10,000 pilos, and wasn't paid accordingly. Urza insists there's no mistake and the price is 8,400 pilos, but the man refuses to understand, saying the price is wrong. No one dares to stop him, and he's crazy enough to try to hit Urza, but when he throws a punch, Sato freezes his arm with his freezing bullets, and tells him to stop since Urza never lies about prices. To prove it, he takes out all the bamboo shoots collected. So Sato places what the big guy was going to sell, and as expected, the cart shows the same price Urza said, 8,400 pilos. Even this isn't enough. The random guy tells Sato that he's only there to cover up a scam, and after thawing his arm by flexing his muscles, he throws a punch, which Sato blocks with such ridiculous ease that the background music in the anime lowers its volume, only to knock him out effortlessly with a slap. The next scene is an endless moment of modesty and gratitude between Urza and Sato, nothing worth mentioning until Urza suddenly gets up from her chair and kisses Sato on the mouth. After not reacting for a few seconds, his face turns completely red, and he asks Urza why she did that. She tells him it wasn't a kiss from a merchant of items, but a kiss from Urza herself. She asks him not to forget that and goes to continue with her work, while Sato remains sitting on the floor. As usual, Sato and Emily return to collect bamboo shoots. Before, they would get 20,000 pilos per trip, but now that they have the magic cart, they get 200,000 pilos per trip. Both celebrate that with their current earnings, they'll be able to buy a house. Once back home, while packing their things in boxes for the move, they both agree it's a shame to say goodbye to this house. Sato proposes to Emily to keep renting their current house so they can come back even after moving. Emily says this would be very expensive, but Sato convinces her by saying it's for moments like these that they earn so much money in the dungeons. Chapter 5 begins with Emily cooking in the new house, thinking about how much she likes her new life. Meanwhile, Sato kills mummies on the first floor of Nihonium. The skeletons gave him life points, the zombies strength, and the mummy gave him a speed point. Out of nowhere, another mummy attacks him, and Sato easily splits it in half with a kick, while killing the previous mummy with bullets was harder. He realizes then that he should take advantage of his S-rank strength. Some indefinite time later, while Sato is sitting, a strange guy with red hair calls Sato by his name and sits with him, accompanied by 2 women, which makes Sato a little envious. The guy doesn't even introduce himself, but the girls address him as Neptune. Their intention is to challenge Sato to an arm wrestling duel. Sato has never been so willing to humiliate someone before and accepts the challenge. They both feel each other's strength, but in the end, Sato is stronger and wins, surprising everyone around him because the guy he beat is from the Neptune family, the most powerful organization in Sekiro, as Urza mentioned in previous chapters. Neptune wants a rematch, but Sato refuses to avoid attracting more attention. This infuriates Neptune, and he tries to hit Sato. Sato throws another punch, and their fists collide. Being stronger, Sato sends Neptune flying backward, surprising him with his strength. This time, Neptune offers him to join his family. The scene is not shown in the anime, but Sato rejects it. Emily asks him why he rejected such an important offer, and he replies that he simply isn't interested in belonging to any group and that he's happier living with her. The next day in Nihonium, Sato meets the princess and her servants who are selling air, the drop of monsters in Nihonium for those who don't have S-rank drop rates. People don't believe the drops of air are collected by the princess, so they invented the Pandora boxes. They serve to automatically collect drops and also show the face of whoever obtained them. The elite scammer gives Sato some Pandora boxes and tells him to tell everyone about them, a great act of kindness and marketing. Sato doesn't think he needs the boxes, but he comes up with an idea. Since they automatically absorb drops, he can take the seeds outside in large quantities. Remember that these seeds cannot be picked up since they are automatically absorbed, but now he can take them outside to generate many strays and get many special freezing bullets. But that's not all. Now he can pick up the seeds from the second floor, which is deeper, and thus obtain the seeds from the mummies and zombies. By becoming strays, they generate another type of special bullets, different from those dropped by skeletons. The voice that only Sato hears tells him that he got fire bullets from the zombie, but it doesn't show what it says about the white bullets obtained from the mummy. Emily warns Sato that a magical storm is approaching, so he goes to Urza for information. She explains that a magical storm renders anyone within its reach unable to use magic. While she provides more details, an adventurer enters seeking help because his companion, Rosa, got trapped in a dungeon called Silicon. According to Urza, they have just arrived in Sekro and learned about the magical storm late. No adventurer dares to assist them. Suddenly, Neptune appears and explains that in Silicon, monsters are only affected by magical attacks, so only mages go there. However, at the moment, they have no power. Even in these adverse circumstances, Sato offers to help. Sato must head to the third floor, but on the first floor, he tests if his special bullets work, and they do. Additionally, he freezes the drop so it doesn't become a stray. When Emily goes to the market, she learns that Sato is in a complicated situation, but he's already on the third floor of Silicon, where he finds Rosa lying on the ground. When he goes to help her, a monster approaches, but Sato no longer has bullets to fight them. However, at least Emily and Eve are going to his aid, although Eve only goes because Sato is the only one who gets the carrots she likes. Emily says she wants to save Sato because he reminds her of her mother. This is a rather strange form of friend zone. Emily recounts that her mother always helped those in need, in addition to lecturing them and sharing with them. She was a strong and kind woman, but one day, a dragon appeared in the dungeon where they were. She managed to defeat it but not without receiving considerable damage. Emily tried to save her, but while taking her back home, her mother died. According to Emily, Sato is just like her mother, helping so many people, and she won't let anything bad happen to him. While they are heading to help him, Sato is escaping while carrying Rosa. At least he tries to use his normal bullets, but as mentioned before, physical attacks don't work against the monsters of Silicon. Luckily, Emily and Eve arrive in time and also create an army of strays using the seeds that Sato saved. This allows him to get special bullets and kill the monsters. They all manage to escape, and outside, Rosa's companion is waiting for them. However, she is very injured, and despite knowing healing magic, he cannot heal her due to the magical storm. But Sato tells him not to worry and shoots one of his white bullets. He explains that these are healing bullets. The mage thanks them and leaves, carrying Rosa back home, and thus Chapter 5 ends. Chapter 6 begins with Sato asking Urza to evaluate his new drop, watermelons, but Eric appears, who has more authority for this kind of thing. Seeing that the watermelons will be a success just like the bamboo shoots, Urza asks Sato for an exclusive contract. He agrees and says he's happy to have another reliable source of income. Urza remembers to warn Sato about something. Watermelons are obtained on the 5th floor of Telulu, but from the 6th floor onward, a license is required. If he doesn't get one, she will be prohibited from buying drops obtained beyond the 6th floor since the danger increases every 5 levels. There are also licenses for beyond the 10th floor and beyond the 15th floor. Sato goes to the place to obtain the license to go to the 6th floor in the future. There, a man asks him about his achievements, and following Urza's advice, he replies that he regularly brings watermelons from the 5th floor of Telulu. The answer works, and the man tells them to follow him. When they arrive at a place where they will be tested, he places a melon on a platform and tells them that it was obtained on the 6th floor of Telulu and will be turned into a stray. He also warns them to prepare because it's much worse since the danger increases every 5 floors. When the test begins, Emily says it's a steel slime. Sato tries hitting it, but even his S-rank strength isn't enough. In his next attempt, he loads a fire and an ice bullet. The fire one does nothing, but after hitting it with the ice bullet, a weak blow manages to shatter the monster into pieces. Sato explains that the sudden change in temperature made the metal brittle. The examiner says that was incredible and approves him. After this, Sato tells Emily that he needs to ask her a favor, and the scene changes. A few days later, Sato bought tuna for 1.5 million pilos. Emily doesn't understand why, but Sato has a plan, and the first step is to turn the tuna into a stray. This stray is a gorilla very similar to the one that destroyed the city. Emily is terrified, but Sato's strategy of freezing the gorilla to climb and then shoot works the first time. The drop is another gun, and he says that this will be very useful for combining special bullets quickly. Emily tells him not to become a villain, but Sato responds that he will behave well as long as she is nearby. Upon returning to the city of Sekro, in the market area, Sato finds Urza somewhat discouraged. It turns out that a guy named Adalbert took over the 6th floor of the Silicon Dungeon, the only place where rice can be obtained, and demands that they buy the rice at a higher price. This would imply that Urza sells that rice much more expensively to her customers. As always, Sato goes to solve problems, but he encounters Neptune, who is there to destroy Adalbert. However, Sato has a more peaceful solution, and Neptune agrees. In the dungeon, he encounters Adalbert, and when Sato pulls out his guns, the guy calls all his allies. Sato fires 2 healing bullets, and somehow this leaves them asleep. Later, Sato explains to Neptune that combining 2 healing bullets creates a sedative bullet, and there are other combinations. At the end, the guys were expelled from the place. It is not known what consequences they will face. A man who was there witnessed Sato's feat and calls him to talk to him about something. He introduces himself as Clint Gray, head of dungeons at Sekro. Basically, he wants to ask Sato for a favor. In summary, Sekro has a neighboring city called Hetero. Vegetable drops belong to Sekro, and meat drops belong to Hetero. A dungeon appeared with drops half meat and half vegetables, so they are going to compete to see which city keeps the dungeon. For this, Gray wants Sato's help since he has an excellent drop rate, and the winning city will be the one that gets the most rare drops. If he manages to win, all the drops Sato obtains will be tax-free, and therefore he will earn more money. Sato accepts the deal. Upon arriving home, he tells Emily the good news and asks her to accompany him. At first, she doesn't think she will be of use, but she finally accepts. While traveling to the dungeon, they both leave a drawing on the ground to encourage those who go through an exhausting journey like theirs. When it gets dark, they prepare to camp, and Emily leaves everything perfect as always. That place looks nicer than my house. She also prepared delicious food, and the only thing missing is burning the trash. Emily says that in the city, other people take care of that work, but here they must do it themselves, otherwise, the trash will become a stray, and the strays from the trash are much stronger. This makes Sato curious about the drop, so they go to test what happens. The stray that comes out of the trash is a Frankenstein. Emily hits it with her hammer, but it doesn't work. Sato shoots a fire bullet at it, but it doesn't hurt it either. Finally, Sato tries to shoot 2 fire bullets at once, and when they combine, it creates much stronger flames than before, enough to defeat Frankenstein. The next day they go to test what the drop is. Frankenstein's bullet is green, the slime dodges, but the bullet bends in the air chasing the slime. Now Sato has tracking bullets, and Emily is scared that he is getting more dangerous weapons each time. That same day they arrive at the Sealand dungeon. There are people from both cities and they are accumulating a lot of trash, and only a girl mage is taking care of burning it. The girl looks very tired and Sato says that they have to stop her from overdoing it. She tells them that she cannot rest now, but they shouldn't worry anyway. Seconds after saying this, she tries to cast a fire spell but fails and collapses from exhaustion, thus ending chapter 6.